Hello and welcome to Friday. This is the Slackline Call of the Day podcast here. You are here with the boss.
The boss is coming! That's a made-up dumb fairy tale name, you
And we are at Friday, our first Friday, and so we're gonna do one of my favorite quotes today. We will be back on Sunday with the full version of the Slackline with Jay Wow, and our guests are Ken Dressen and Jordan Vasquez, talking about their new movie Mailman, coming out soon. I've seen an early cut of it, really funny. Those guys are hilarious, so make sure to tune in on Sunday. But first, we'll get to our sponsor. That sponsor is the Einstein Box. Been told to think outside the box. Place the Einstein Box anywhere in your home, and you'll always be thinking outside the box. That is the Einstein Box. I'm pretty sure that's just a cardboard box that you can put somewhere in your house. But they're paying our bills, so we're hawking them on the air. Yeah, I'm speaking a little low and sexy today because Lambo, the roommate's back in town, and he is right across the hall from me, probably trying to sleep. He can probably hear me anyways, but we'll try to keep it down for him. All right, the coffee is it's lukewarm, but we're gonna get going here. So our quote today comes to us from George Bernard Shaw, Irish Nobel Prize winning playwright. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. I like this quote. I think it's I'm using it for Friday because it's probably one of my favorites. To me, it goes along with our sponsor, I guess. It talks about, thinking outside the box, thinking, that people that don't follow the regular path are the ones that end up actually changing, how we operate, changing what they wanted to change. I remember one of my bosses seeing a seminar with the founder of Uber, and he talked about how he didn't go out like trying to invent like the next great app so he could get rich or whatever. Like that wasn't his intention. He was living in San Francisco, and whenever he ordered a cab, he would go and wait for it on the street, and there would be like multiple cabs that would go past him. And he'd, kind of wonder himself why he couldn't just take one of these cabs. So he started doing it, and then he eventually got blacklisted by every cab company in San Francisco because he kept calling and then just taking whatever cab came first. And he was just like, there has to be like a better system here. And so he came up with Uber, and boom, like it changes things, right? Same thing with Facebook. Like, he wasn't trying to
to make as much money as possible. He saw an interesting idea, and he executed it, and that's that's just kind of what people do when they're thinking in a different way than everybody else, because if they weren't thinking in a different way, then somebody else would have done it already, and so it seems like those types of people are the ones that end up actually like changing things. If you want to go back to people like Tesla and people like Einstein and stuff, like they were different people, man. Like they were, you'd have to be, right? You'd have to be sort of unreasonable to insist that you can provide free energy to the world by wirelessly transmitting mass amounts of electricity. Like, and yeah, that sounds nuts, right? So this is it's what the quote I think kind of references, and I don't think it's really one of those things that means like unable, like people that aren't able to see reason, like will disagree with things that are true, but maybe more look at like bringing different perspectives to things that people wouldn't have thought of before. I told a story not yesterday but the day before about my buddy and his boss who demeaned an employee who had an outside of the box idea, and he you know it, the conversation stops there if people shut those people down rather than allowing them to provoke interesting discussion, or take ideas in different directions that people that are thinking reasonably inside the box. You just don't get down that path. Not that it's necessarily the best path or the right path all the time. Just that it can just bring you down different avenues that you never thought that an idea could take you. And so in that way, I think that progress does depend on kind of the unreasonable people, the people that are willing to look at something and be like, okay, well, we've been doing it this way, but why can't we just do it this way? And everybody else going like, well, because it's completely unreasonable. Like you couldn't build a train that goes under the English Channel. Like you couldn't build a subway system under New York City. Like, no, those things are unreasonable. And so but then people do them, and eventually I saw, this is kind of an out there example. There was a skateboarder, let's see if I can get his name up again, actually. Ali Boulala, who took on this 25 set of stairs, I guess, and is the longest stair set in the world, and nobody ever tried to hit it before, and he just said fuck it and tried and failed, but like it didn't get done until 13 years later, but the person that did it and the people that have done it since have said like nobody would have tried that if he hadn't tried it, and or like it still wouldn't be done if he hadn't tried it. So even though he failed at this set of steps, and that might be trivial to some people, but it's obviously big to them, nobody else would have done it. If somebody didn't try to take their plane to space, then maybe nobody would have built a spaceship, or maybe nobody would have had the idea to build space shuttles and those types of things. So, and yeah, it seems unreasonable to try and jump 25 stairs on a like a piece of board and wheels, but people are doing it, and hey, they're making great fun livings for themselves doing it. So who's to say any different? I watched a lecture with Steven Pinker, who is a cognitive psychologist and an author. He was talking about progress, and he made a couple interesting things, actually. He said, it's been said, so this wasn't his quote, but it's been said that science makes progress funeral by funeral. And what he meant by that was that like, every time you get a generation that dies, that's when progress happens, because it's actually the generation before that is holding progress back, and so as soon as it passes away, it can move forward. And I thought that was kind of a funny sort of morbid quote, but um, he kind of came to a conclusion, or a conclusive question of, is progress inevitable? And he argued no, that there are problems that get created by new solutions, like something like, well, solar energy is great, but then you have to mine for lithium batteries and stuff like that, and that's no better or worse than oil or diamonds or anything like that. And he also argued that there are nasty surprises along the way, like world wars and those types of things. And I don't know, like, I would argue that those are part of progress in a weird way. I mean, they're all part of, like, the lessons we learn as we go forward. I mean, as gross as it is, there are like scientific things that were done during Nazi Germany that were ultimately kind of useful, as gross as their methods were. And so, as far as technological progress, as far as even sociological progress, because something like, again, like World War II happens and Nazi Germany happens, like, we can look back on those things and go like, oh fuck, like, let's not let that happen again. And again, that's part of progress, and that's kind of part of it goes back to the science makes progress funeral by funeral. And Pinker argued that social progress is the same way. And in a weird way, isn't humanity's, like, whole purpose to like adapt the world to itself? Like, we that is, like, what we do. That is how we survive. We adapt our environments. But that, like, even the beginning of this quote suggests that the reasonable person just isn't looking for different ways to do that, I guess. I guess like it could come down to, like, what you consider progress, and like, let's talk about what progress actually means. I mean, like, in my opinion, progress is just overall like increases in quality of life of for everybody, and however we can do that, and however those kind of advances end up happening, to me, is progress. So while something like World War II is terrible in many ways, the outcomes of them, and even, like, the engine of war and the technological progress that is made during it, and then at least in North America, all those people coming home from war and going to school and getting educated, and the government helping them out in that way, and all the women that had been working at home while the men were all off at war, and they wanted to continue working when they came back, and so you get feminist revolutions, and you get and then Cold War starts happening, and that's obviously, it's not good to be under the threat of nuclear war, but as far as the progress technologically that was made, and ideologically, because we went through whole political systems that we got to see happen in action, and now we have reference to look at, and I mean, those aren't perfect examples of those things. Like Soviet communism is not, like, it didn't become what theoretical communism is, obviously, and it ended up collapsing, just like capitalism has not become what it theoretically was supposed to be, and we're kind of seeing it, in my opinion, sort of crumble away right now, and we're meeting somewhere in the middle, and we had to have those things happen to learn the lessons from them. Otherwise, I mean, they would have happened anyways, just later, right? Because we would, like, inevitable, like, in my opinion, it is inevitable, in my opinion, like, progress, because everything is going to get tried. I kind of have this idea that as soon as something is done, as soon as something is made, it can't be undone or unmade. Like, people have seen it, people will try it, people will replicate it, people will people will people have seen it, people will try it, people will want to replicate it. People will want to improve on it, whatever it is. Like, and I firmly believe that we'll really quickly get to the point where if somebody gets the proper material, like uranium, in their hands, they could build like a bomb in their basement. Like, why not? Those instructions will be like just like posted online or something crazy like that. Like, uh, something like 3D printing comes along, which is like an incredible thing. Like, it's incredible. They wirelessly transmitted a physical object to the space station. They emailed a file to the space station that they downloaded and used to 3D print like a drill bit that they needed for their to fix something on the space station. Like, that is like teleportation of solid, inanimate objects. But like, we're getting there. And so somebody looks at that and says, something, the unreasonable man or whatever, the unreasonable person looks at that and goes like, can we do that with living things? And the experiments involved in that are probably ethically questionable at best. But people are gonna do it. Like, somebody's gonna try it, and I'm interested to see what happens when people start trying stuff like that. Along the same lines as 3D printing. One of the first things that gets done with 3D printing is somebody tries to design a gun with it and does. And that, like, the ethics involved in something like that, the moral dilemma, it's not just personal. It's like it's like a total social shift when somebody can print their own handheld weapon like that in their house. Like, these types of little things are kind of going unnoticed as like interesting, potentially dangerous pockets of progress, because people are getting more and more able to just produce themselves, to just do anything themselves, to make a movie themselves, to put their music online themselves, to build something themselves, to get instructions for pretty much anything. It's all there. You just have to have the materials and the time and energy to want to do something. And so most people want to do interesting and cool things, and some people want to do really bad and dangerous things. So but again, like, I really think that is all part of progress, not long-term progress, not immediate progress. Like, even somebody like Donald Trump I consider part of progress, just because it was like kind of an inevitability when you look at how the tensions that were growing in the US and how their political system is structured. Like, it was inevitable that this type of extreme versus extreme issue would come up. And it has to, like, those types of tensions, like, they have to be released somehow, whether it's through actual democratic and legislative change that can relieve them somehow, which is rare. Like, it's honestly rare. Or through violent eruptions and through protest votes and those types of things. We'll see what happens in the next year with that guy. But again, like, because of him, he's happened now. Like, this thing has happened, and like, it can't unhappen. And so we can look back at this in history now, go like, wait, is this happening again? Well, how did we let this happen before? And what led to it? Like, how can we prevent it from happening again? We have to kind of fuck up in order to make progress. I always wonder about like poison berries and stuff like that when I'm walking through the forest, and I'm like, like, or not even frozen or poison berries, like blackberries. Like, outside my house, there's a bunch of blackberry bushes. I go and eat them sometimes, and I'm like, I wonder who's the first person that looked at this and was like, I'm going to eat that. And it's going to be good. Or it's going to kill me. And how we figured out that some berries are poisonous and some are delicious is because some people died after they ate them. Because they were just like, bright berry. Oh, I'm dead. Like, as sad as that is, that's part of progress because everybody else learns from it. And so even in that way, the progress does depend on the unreasonable man, because the unreasonable man randomly took a berry off a bush and ate it. And whether that was good progress in going, oh, this berry is delicious and nutritious and we should eat it for the rest of time, or, a bad outcome, he dies because he got sick from this berry, then that is still good progress for everybody because everybody goes yes or no to that berry. So the unreasonable man strikes again. He might be dead, but we're all better for it. So, I mean, maybe the outcome isn't always good for the unreasonable man that is venturing across the ocean, looking at the ocean and going, I'm just going to go out. I'm just going to sail a boat that way. And their friend's like, what? Like, I'm going to see if it ends. And, like, the friend's being like, dude, it ends. You fall off the edge. You're just gonna go fall off the edge? Like, no, I don't think you fall off the edge. I'm just gonna go. Like, that guy was a crazy asshole. But and a lot of people died doing stuff like that. But it's how we mapped the world. And a lot of people died trying to go to space. But it's how we got up there. It's how we put satellites up there. It's how we got mass communication and stuff like that. And so. Maybe we'll leave it there for today. That was a little chat on progress. And the quote is from George Bernard Shaw: "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man." Again, George Bernard Shaw, Irish Nobel Prize winning playwright. We are that a quote. It's another one that it uses man in place of people. I tried to PC it up, but it just took the I don't know, the gravitas away from it, I guess, if that's an interesting way to put it. I don't know. Again, I try to shape them up to change it to like men to people when it's appropriate, but it doesn't work this one. So. That is George Bernard Shaw, and we are sponsored today by the Einstein Box. Been told to think outside the box. Place the Einstein Box anywhere in your home, and you'll always be thinking outside the box. That is a empty cardboard box that goes in your house, and I believe they sell for $59.99. What's that? Oh, 3 payments of $59.99. Okay. Well. That's the Einstein Box. So you are here. This was Friday, so we are done with the quote of the day. We'll be back again on Monday. But the big slack line will be posted again Sunday with JWoww and the Boss. You are listening to the Boss right now. Thanks again to Crooked Spies for providing some tunes. And we are out. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a good one.
Now beginning to weep for all my kin.